everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Katie, otherwise known as The Vintage Academic. I am currently a rising senior at UC Berkeley. I finished my junior year. I'm going to be a senior in the fall. And I'm also, an important thing to note, a transfer student. I transferred in fall of 2020 as a junior, and since I know a ton of incoming transfers are coming to Berkeley this fall, I wanted to bring you some transfer content, some tips to help your transition go smoother. So if that sounds good to you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more transfer content, and let's get into today's video. So in today's video, I want to bring you 6 tips that will help you in your transition into being a transfer student at your new university this semester or coming quarter. So without any further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it so we don't waste any time. Tip number 1, and this is a super important tip that I don't think anybody ever talks about, is to enjoy your summer. You just finished community college, you've earned some kind of associates or associates to transfer degree, and that is no small feat. So please make sure that you give yourself a pat on the back for all the hard work that you did in community college, including all the hard work that you had to do to transfer, writing your application, writing your essays, getting everything in by the deadline, and then go enjoy your summer. I don't think that there's anything wrong with maybe taking a summer class here or there if your new university lets you do so, but please remember to take some time for yourself this summer before you start at your new university, usually as a junior transfer. When you transfer, you're definitely going to hit the ground running, so I want you to make sure to take that time to rest, relax, recuperate, so that you can approach your new university with fresh eyes, reinvigorated soul, renewed curiosity, and without being completely burnt out. See, when I transferred, I decided to take summer session courses. I took three summer classes in the summer between community college and going to UC Berkeley. And if I could do it again, I probably would take less classes. I would still take something, but not as many. While I did not take them all at the same time, it was still just constant school. I finished community college, started summer classes, went into my fall semester, got completely burnt out, and then had a terrible spring semester. Of course, there are other things that factor into that, like the pandemic and being diagnosed with ADHD. But the point is, make sure that you're giving yourself time to rest and relax this summer, so that way you're not already burnt out when you hit the road running for your fall semester / quarter. Tip number 2, and this one is super important, is to figure out your housing sooner rather than later. Now, if you have already gained your admissions and you know that you want to go into a dorm room, the deadline to apply for the dorms has probably already passed for most universities, but if you decided that you didn't want to go into a dorm and you want to find other housing or off-campus housing, make sure you're taking care of that as soon as possible. Especially since we are heading into a mostly in-person semester, it's really important to try and find an apartment or find housing or a roommate or whatever as soon as you can, because students are going to be flooding back to the cities where your universities are, and it's going to make it really hard to find affordable housing. So make sure you are looking as early as possible. When I transferred, I threw my hat into the ring for university housing, which included dorms and apartments and transfer-themed housing. I ended up not taking any housing appointment because of the pandemic. I just stayed home for a semester. But I also looked at other opportunities like off-campus apartments, and in Berkeley we have the student cooperative housing. But all of those things fill up very quickly, and especially if you're looking for a private apartment, you might be left with the most expensive options that there are in the city and scrambling to find roommates at the last second. So if you are looking for housing still though, I have a couple of recommendations. 1, troll Facebook and Craigslist for apartments. Those are both great places to find apartments. Be wary of scams, however, and if you're going to go look at an apartment, make sure you take somebody with you so you're not alone. I would also recommend using your university's roommate matching services. I'm not sure if all universities do this, but UC Berkeley does, and it's not just for on-campus housing or dorm rooms. You can use the university roommate matching system to get matched with somebody for an off-campus apartment. That way you know that they're a student, they've been vetted by the university, and it's not going to be a shot in the dark trying to find a roommate on Facebook. Lastly, I do also really like the idea of the cooperatives. I've never lived in one myself. However, if you can find something like that that is meant for low-income students, where there is community built into your housing, I think that that's a great option, especially for transfer students who are coming in as juniors and may have a slightly more difficult time making friends or finding community. Tip number 3 is to figure out when, where, and how to meet with your advisor. I'm not sure if all universities do this, but I think it's pretty common to have incoming freshmen and transfer students have to meet with an advisor. When you first start your transition process into the university, meeting with an advisor is going to help you pick out your classes and figure out your schedule for the semester so that you can be sure that you're hitting all of the requirements that you're going to need, not only for your major, but for your graduation. So I would just advise figuring out when and where that is, coming prepared with some notes, and perhaps even browsing the school's catalog of courses that are going to be offered that semester so that you can come with a game plan already laid out to be approved by your advisor. Additionally, if this is not required by your university, I would still say to go and look for your advisor and figure out how to meet with them and talk to them about your class schedule. Some departments have some requirements that might be a little bit different for transfer students, and that's information that you might not be able to find out unless you speak directly to your major advisor. So even if it's not required, I say go ahead and do it. They're going to help you figure out your schedule and get the classes that you need, and that will be very helpful for somebody coming in as a brand new student, as the university system can be a little overwhelming at first. My fourth tip is to start gathering your supplies. Now, this includes everything and anything that you need for the school year. So whether it's books or notebooks, or maybe you need to think about purchasing a new computer or a tablet to help with your schoolwork, as well as things like apartment stuff, or if you're living in a dorm, the things that you need for a dorm room. Sit down and figure out what it is you're going to have to purchase and what you're going to have to bring with you to make this school year the best school year it can be. So, okay, I'm sorry if the angle changed slightly, my camera battery died. Anyways, where was I? So when I transferred, I knew I needed to start gathering my supplies. Even if I wasn't going to be moving into an apartment or moving into the city where my university was, I still needed some school supplies, so I made sure to check what classes I was taking in order to order my books. I also knew that I needed a couple more stationery supplies. I also knew that I did not have a good study space in my house, so I went to IKEA, I picked out a simple desk, and I made a study space for myself in the living room where I would be outside of my bedroom but still have a designated study space. So I had to buy a desk and a lamp and a chair and all of those things that go with a study space. I also invested in an iPad so I could take my notes digitally rather than on paper. And lastly, I did start gathering my supplies for my apartment because I did ultimately end up moving to Berkeley during the spring semester. So I started gathering things like pots and pans from Goodwill, the various cleaning supplies that you need when you live in an apartment by yourself, towels, just the kinds of things that you don't really think of when you think of moving into an apartment. And I started gathering all those things slowly because I knew I would eventually be moving to Berkeley. I got 2 more tips for you, and these are possibly the most important tips, so listen up. Tip number 4 is to review your previous coursework from community college. Okay, now hear me out. If you're anything like me and it took you a little bit longer than usual to get through community college, I took 5 years to get through community college, then some of the classes that you might have taken that are important to your major might not be so fresh. The information might not be in your brain ready to go. So I highly recommend taking the time during your summer to go back and look at the courses from your community college that pertain to your major that are going to be really important for you to freshen up on. Review the information, review key terms, review things like the literature that you had to read, anything that you think will help you in your transition to your new university. Again, when I transferred, I was in a couple of classes. They were using terminology that I was familiar with but couldn't remember what the definition was, and I started falling behind a little bit, so I went back and consulted my community college notes and textbooks in order to just catch up and bridge that gap of information that my brain had decided to chuck out because I wasn't using it. So please do not be afraid to go back and look at your community coursework in review for your upper division courses. That's exactly what taking lower division courses is for, is to teach you that basic information, that terminology, that important literature that is going to be the foundation of your ability to then build critical thinking skills around your major. If you're having a hard time recalling information, you're not stupid, you're not an imposter, it's just because you haven't had to use that information in a while. So just go back and freshen up a little bit, and I'm sure you'll get it. It's exactly what I did. So, and if you can do it ahead of time, if you can do it during the summer and be prepared for it, then that's all the better because you won't have to spend time catching up like I did. So definitely try doing that, and I'm sorry there are kids yelling in the background. And the last tip is start finding your community. Now, as a transfer student, there are a lot of universities that do not prioritize transfer students. And as sad as that is to say, that doesn't mean that you can't find community. Finding community as a transfer student not only means like making friends and that kind of stuff, but it really means having a support network that can help you through some of the difficulties of transitioning into a new university. It really means having people there that can relate to your experiences and help and be there for each other as you both adjust to a new environment and a new educational setting. So being able to find your community early on in your transfer process is, in my opinion, very, very important and has been really helpful to me as a transfer student. So, for example, a lot of universities have Facebook groups for the incoming transfer class. So I'm part of the Facebook group for the transfer class of 2022. I also follow the UC Berkeley transfer Instagram page so that if I see anybody else on there that's also in my same major, I can go and follow them, maybe send them a message. I would also recommend seeing if your university has any clubs or a transfer center, or maybe like UC Berkeley offers transition courses during the summer that help you get adjusted to being a transfer at Berkeley, and that's another great way to meet other transfer students. Transfer socials, anything that you can do to find a space that is specifically set aside for transfer students and start communicating with other transfer students in order to build that community, find study groups, find people that can be part of your support network at your new university will be very helpful and very important. Now, this was a bit of a shorter video, but I wanted to get this information out there for everybody who is quickly approaching their fall semester / quarter. So please take this advice and do with it what you can in order to help your transition be as smooth as possible. And I am working on much more transfer content to come, so don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give it a like, and leave me a comment. Tell me which one of these tips that you think is going to be the most useful in your transfer. So again, if you like this video, don't forget to like it and give me a subscribe for more UC Berkeley and transfer related content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!